Here's our story of relearning almost everything and finally beginning to live.
Well, it was now March of 2024, and the tractor, though lovely, had been useless for 4 months. We had been busy getting a chicken yard fenced in, and were now getting ready for campfire worship events and visits from family coming to camp. Interesting blooms were appearing all around us, and the sounds of the forest birds were in full force. Wild rabbit was on NAOS menu, and the sawmill was finally put together and running.
So here we are at Sawmill. This is my first day running my sawmill. I just gathered up some sycamore that was laying around down on the beach. Got some red cedar also. So I'm just basically testing it out, trying to get a feel for it, trying to see how hard it is, to get a perfect cut. So I can tell you all you folks think about getting a sawmill. If you're a decently skilled craftsman, or probably just have a heartbeat, very easy to get the cuts good enough to use rough cut timber for building. Pretty hard to get it perfect with my particular setup. But here I am, just really just trying to get better at it, learn how to do it, get a feel for how hard or how easy it is. I ended up, I think the next day after this, I made about 7 benches out of sycamore slabs. I'm just going through the milling here, enjoying the nice weather. I don't know what's up with that hat on top of my hood. It must have been pretty cold, I guess. I don't see a thermometer on here. But, you can see I'm taking it real nice and slow because, still learning what the mill's even capable of. Which is one of the reasons I cut a lot of cedar now, almost completely cedar, is because it's really easy on my blades. The oak and stuff, the blade is done like 3 or 4 times faster. So I cut a lot of cedar. Plus it's so rot resistant and bug resistant. It's like the awesomest wood. It's like God said, here, I'm going to put this wood on the North American part of the planet that is awesome for building with. So, if you need it strong, you just cut it thicker. So here I am with a piece of red cedar, and it's a Woodland Mills HM130 Max, which I love for the money. You're definitely not going to beat it. I've only used one Wood Miser, a buddy of mine, and I like my Woodland Mills a lot more. It's honestly not real close. He's just got a basic one that's manual, just like this, except for his isn't on a trailer. I love the trailer because you can set it up, and I'll set it up here and use it in the same place for weeks, or you can pull it and set it up somewhere else, miles away. So I suspect here other than my many years of carpentry knowledge, I don't really know what I'm doing here. I've learned a lot since then. And it's trying to be, you always want to be real careful not to cut into the metal, your log stops. You don't want to cut into any of that. I've done that about twice. I quickly learned that that's a horrible idea. But I'm just cutting this stuff. I ended up using these little, 1/2 to 3/4 inch thick, 1x6, to make a little like 7 or 8 foot section of privacy fence between two of our storage tents. So, and I'll tell you what, I used them green, and to this day, when they dried out, there's not really gaps in the fence. It's just cedar's an awesome wood. It just doesn't shrink that much when it dries. Obviously, the bigger and bigger it is, the more it shrinks. But thin little stuff like this, and this is a tree I had just cut down, you know, real recently. So, but this, just being real careful, taking it real easy. I really don't know why I'm going that slow. Was maybe somehow the blade was already dull, which I don't recall. Yeah, so you see over there, I got my bucket rigged up with the cardboard. That's to this day, that's still what I do, because it catches, you know, probably 78 to 84% of the sawdust, but it's good enough, you know. The rest can just get blown around, and for nutrients for plants and shrubs. But so there I am taking off plant. I like these Woodland Mills clamps. There are other ones that aren't as convenient. There's ones that I haven't actually used, but it looks like they're more convenient. But these are real good for definitely for the price range. So I don't really know what I'm doing here. I flipped it over. Why does this camera work so shoddy? Is it? I would have thought it was on a tripod, but it's kind of all over the place. Oh, it just started over. So, looks like I'm coming back for another run. So yeah, I will tell you guys, anybody thinking about getting a sawmill, get it. If you can do it, you can afford it. If you're just wondering if it'll be worth it, or it's awesome. I feel so unstoppable because I know how to build anything out of wood. And once I got to the point of having a sawmill and being able to cut down a tree and make a lumber out of it, yeah, it's an awesome feeling, because it's easy. It really is easy to make it good enough to use for building. I don't personally get crazy, you know, about, you know, a couple things are 1/16 of an inch off in thickness. I don't care. But, you know, person, you know, you have to have a planer to get real crazy about exactly. Another cut. I'm really excited at the time, and now it seems really boring, you know, like that was. See, then I also didn't know about, like when you start out, you put the center of the log the same height off of your bunks, your sawmill bunks, which the bunks are those green things going across with the silver tops, you know, the stainless steel tops. So each end, you take the short end and you shim it up till the middle of it. There's some of the sycamore I cut up and made benches out of. Here's a real pretty one I ended up making like a 7.5 foot long bench out of. And that one looks really pretty too. It all looks pretty. Sycamore's beautiful wood. So I ended up making like 7 benches out of these after I cut them up into 2.5 or 3 inch thick slabs. And I just used rounds, like 16, 18 inch long rounds for the legs. There's a bunch of slabs. I still have a bunch of those slabs. Made a bench the other day in the woods with one.
It was perfect weather for being in the woods and sitting around the campfire. Everything was starting to turn to green, and our hard work over the winter was ready to be shared. We had several worship gatherings that spring and thoroughly enjoyed our time with all the lovely family and friends. Sometimes quiet and sweet, and other times full of joyful noises.
So during this time period, we realized that to us and to God, it was more important to begin to do things to prepare for the community, to prepare for helping people, for people to be able to come here and have a place to stay and have things to do and have a way they can help, a way they can contribute and be blessed by the using of their talents and their gifts. And and we realized that it was going to be longer than we wanted before we had a house, but this kind of like took that to a whole new level of like probably guesstimatically doubling or tripling that time period by which we would go without having a house. And there's definitely days that you're not cool with that. But most of the time, there's a full realization of, hey, this is bigger. This is bigger than us. This is more than we can come up with. This is in its fully functioning design affecting more people than we can affect through our own power and our own selves. And when you realize that, it makes it way easier to go without. It makes it way easier to be hot in the summer and to be cold in the winter and to not have running water and to have solar power, but it's limited power, and you can't just hook up some massive air conditioner and be cool in the summer, or some big massive heater and definitely be warm all night in the winter, always, getting up in the middle of the night in the winter, putting logs on the fire, in our uninsulated tents that don't stay warm, basically, but
we could do that a little longer.
Yeah,
and be okay.
Yeah.
And all we don't have much to offer. We don't have wealth.
Yeah.
We don't have things. But
Yeah.
God gave us this land. And
Yep.
so we have that to offer back to Him. And the best way we can offer that back to Him is to share it
Yeah.
with His people.
Yep. And we're still in the beginning stages of that. It's everything is slower than you want it to be. Everything takes longer. Everything is temporarily less fruitful than you want it to be. But our sights are on pleasing Him and the end goal, which we know is going to be awesome. There's no doubt. I'm very honest. If there was any doubt about that, that would be an issue. but there's really no doubt. There really honestly is no doubt. We're right here in front of the La Hacienda. What do we got here? This is Monday, about 4 o'clock something p.m. We got us some rain, folks. So this is flowing pretty good. On up here, we call this the Feather Creek. Hear it? Yeah. It's coming down there nicely. Okay, it's got a raindrop on the lens there, it looked like. And so we're gonna go down here. I gotta find a place to cross without getting my little feet wet. Look at that. That's about 14 feet wide right there. 13, 14 foot right there. Yeah, a while ago I crossed right here, but it wasn't, it's come up. So here's this. Remember we were looking at these logs the other day? Yeah. Crazy. This will probably keep coming up, but the little spring that I'm going to show you next might almost be done. But look at that. Man, that's like, and that's a couple feet deep right there. Came this way. Look over here. Check this out. Got some backflow going on because water follows downward gravity, follows the gravity pull. So it turns back here. Look at all that. That's probably 3 or 4 feet deep, at least, over there. So we're coming up. There's a chimenea. And what is that behind it? Oh, it's a beautiful babbling brook. Look at that. Look at that, look at that. Would you look at that? About 4 feet wide right there. What is it? And it goes on down, goes all the way down to the lower unit. Go down here. Look at that. Sit by the campfire and the creek at the same time. We only got, well, I don't know how much rain we got. According to the experts, about 3/4 of an inch. But anyway, let's see if we can see this coming out down here. Them darn forecasters, they don't ever get it right anyway. So there's a nice pool down there. It's probably a couple feet deep. Kind of pooling up down there and going underground, continuing its journey underground. So we've got some serious groundwork to do here. Okay, that's it for this here. I'm gonna make one more of the further up the spring by the home site. Okay, so we're here at the future home site. You hear that? I hear the rush of water. She's coming down beautiful. Go this way. Just come up a little bit since yesterday. I'm sure it's awesome farther up there, but this is as far as I'm going to go. So, when we were looking at this land, and we were talking to the homeowner, he had owned it for over 40 years, and so over on the access side of the creek, where you come on the road, we were given incorrect knowledge about the floodplain of this land We knew that it flooded. We didn't know exactly how bad, but we gained the knowledge that it flooded worse than we were thinking and hoping it did, to the point to where over.
How did you learn that?
Oh yeah, so so our neighbor son, he was over here one day. He's about he's in his 30s, but he's mentally challenged and schizophrenic, and he's a schizophrenic psychopathic arsonist. Literally, seriously. So he's over here one day, and I'm standing out kind of like right by where we were planning on building, and I'm like, Joey, how deep does the water get right here? And he holds his hand up about 4 or 5 feet off the ground, and I'm like, because we were thinking like, maybe a foot, less than a foot, and I'm like, really, and the neighbor, his dad was there, the guy we bought the property from, and you kind of felt like he was avoiding the subject, like he didn't want to comment, because I was like, dude, I've already bought it, it's my property, just come clean, tell me how deep the water gets here, and he didn't say that, and that was when his son holds his hand up like 4 or 5 feet high, and I'm like, oh, so, yeah, and then we don't have any pictures of the flooding, but he brought us some pictures of what it used to look like. Here, the creek now in the widest spot is like probably pushing 150 feet wide. No, more like, 300 feet. It's probably like over 100 yards wide. It used to be a fourth as wide as it is now. So it's flooded, a few times since then, obviously. We already had the plans to build a house and the, other buildings right next to it, and, had to change all that. And this point on our property is 100-year flood status, which all that means is you got a 1% chance every year that it's going to reach this point. And so it did it, and then about 6 years after that, it did it again. This was all about 4 to 6 years before we bought the property. It was the last time it reached 100-year flood status. And so we find this out, and, it's kind of a really big deal because we had to totally change our plans, to now we're going to build on the other side of the creek, which, I'm a builder. It's not... I'm just going to elevate area. I'm not taking any chance. He's showing me pictures of the house, and he's like, oh, the flood washed this part away, like a whole, probably looked like a 12 by 12 back room of the house. This whole house was jerry-rigged. It looked like, he's not a real carpenter. He's just doing the best he can. It's just stuff thrown together. This was actually, I think it was like a big shed that he had got and just connected it to the back of the house. He's like, yeah, we lost that in the flood. So I'm like talking to God one day back in this time period, and he's like, it's been over 6,000 years and nobody's even made a garden for me, and it really massively affected and changed my whole perspective of everything. Literally everything. We're here with, me and my wife are, well, I don't know what we are. We're servants of God, I don't like saying Christian because that's so messed up, and there's just not a good example of that on this planet for the most part. And, this isn't like a religion. Like, it's not about where you're at on Sunday. It's not what you do on Sunday. It's God wants to have life with you. He wants to interact with you daily in everything you think and say and do. And, we're in this long-term process. This whole, we have, I think, about 48 acres, and really, I'm going to be working on this place till the day I die, or take on eternity, whichever one happens. But like, because I'm going to cultivate everything. It's an extremely slow process because we don't have the money to have fancy machinery or stuff that gets stuff done fast. So just kind of taking on the task of, bringing our best to God in everything we do, in your gardening and your, when you go hunting, when you go fishing, when you go trapping, when you're playing, everything you do, eating, sleeping. Hang on. Go for it. You ready?
I'm ready. Are you? Did you really just fart, or did you do that with your mouth?
No. Is it on?
No. Go.
Life is like when you're working out or like picking up something heavy. Like the other day I was picking up these logs, and they're like 300 pounds probably, and when I just bent over and just, I just kind of wasn't trying that hard, I couldn't hardly move it. But when I just like and just hulked it and picked, it wasn't even that hard. And that's how you got to take on life. You got to just go into it like you're the man, you're full of power, you grab it by the horns and you totally dominate it. But unfortunately, most people just la-di-da-di-da and get their butts kicked all day, every day. Okay.
When God changes our plans, it just makes life more exciting. He rarely lets you in on the plan until you're already moving anyway. It's quite impossible to steer an anchored ship. So, we just keep going and enjoy the ride, no matter where it leads us.
You're live action here at Mount Freedom Farm, Feather Creek. This man is crazy, folks. This is a wild river. Look at this. Cut through here. This is professional rafting at its finest. Oh my goodness. We're gonna hang up here, quite literally. Look at him push through that brush. The thirst for victory is running deep in this one. This is a wild river here, folks. Oh my, I can't believe I get to see this. I've lost him. You hear the crowd shouting? There he is. Oh my gosh. Woo, he's breaking out into the open. The spectator's getting in the way. Oh, he's hung it up again. Wait a second, we have illegal activity going on here. Well, it looks like he's got a flat tire, so we're gonna have to call it a day.
Not only are there high waters and deep valleys to cross, there are always going to be mountains to climb. And Mount Freedom is there to give us a challenge. Overcoming any mountain, even an Ozark mountain, and finally reaching the top is quite worth it. Mount Freedom is especially lovely in the early spring when the red buds are in bloom. We have a Resurrection Sunday tradition of watching the sunrise together and sharing in praise to God while eating cinnamon rolls. This time of year is also when the wild turkeys are calling, and when Mount Freedom Man hears a turkey, every other noise in the entire world has to stop. It was the USAA headquarters in San Antonio, Texas. This place sits on a 286-acre campus and is 3/4 of a mile long. Its square footage is 4,331,743. There are 3 gyms, multiple coffee shops, and because over 30,000 people work there, it even has its own zip code. And now, they all will eat more chicken because we are coming to help make it happen. In order to install the cabinets and counters for Chick-fil-A, we had to have constant supervision because this building is one of the most secure in America and is used as a backup to the Pentagon. When the Pentagon was under attack on 9/11, everyone came here. All the precious jewels of account holders are stored in the massive underground vault. We couldn't even go to the bathroom without our bodyguard, and we couldn't leave without them either. Our job started with emptying our truck of material at the opposite end of the building from the Chick-fil-A. So we had to cart it there. We pushed these carts weighing about 500 pounds over 6 miles that day. They made us wear hard hats and gloves, but we both still got hurt multiple times anyway. Once all the cabinets were installed, we headed home, motivated more than ever to figure out how to never leave Mount Freedom for work again. We all decided to start a farm stand and sell all the rest of our stuff, and eggs, and cookies, and we discovered it was a good way to meet the neighbors, too. It wouldn't be long before we got another call, and this time leaving meant we'd have to almost start all the way over when we got back to Mount Freedom.
Please find us on YouTube at The Flame at Mount Freedom. Like and subscribe for more of our off-grid story to come.
A big part of us doing this YouTube channel is to encourage people to, because I know there's thousands of people out there, maybe even millions. I mean, I know people that, they talk about going for it, getting some property, going off grid, a homesteading type lifestyle off grid. And, I want to encourage people to do that. We did it. We didn't have some big old nest egg. We still don't have hardly any money. It's I mean, if you were looking at that, man, it'd be brutal. It'd be very discouraging. That's not, we're not trying to live the American dream of, having some big old house and nice cars. We already been down that road. That's not happy times. So just want to encourage people to go for it. Like, you're going to be way happier, and you know who you are. Like, I wake up every day, and yes, just, we don't have much money. I do odd jobs. Sometimes we sell stuff to just, we don't have hardly any bills, we got to survive. We got to buy, building material every once in a while, whatever I can't make with my mill. I know there are lots of people out there that are thinking about it, and it is better. Your thoughts are accurate, 9 times out of 10. Like, it's God calling you to a better lifestyle, healthier. We're trying to get to where we grow all our food. I mean, honestly, we're still a long ways away from that, but we're we're going to get there. It's very, very slow. Just a little more percentage every year. But yeah, go for it and quit waiting for the perfect time, because that doesn't exist. Like you can come up with a reason or an excuse always. You're never not going to have a reason or an excuse. Go for it, because this is a freedom like you won't be able to understand unless you go for it and do it. Start out the bare minimum. If I would have had to, in retrospect, if I could have just bought an acre or two and put some kind of something to live in on it, like, I would do it. I honestly probably wouldn't have done that when we did this, but now that I have a better understanding of what comes out of that, I would definitely do that. Yeah, now it's really nice to have, almost 50 acres, lots of timber to cut. We're surrounded by wild animals. It's pretty, it's pretty awesome in that aspect for sure. But anyway, the point is, go for it. And if you're a man or woman and your spouse is on board, oh my goodness, that's like a miracle, and you definitely need to go for it. If you're a man or woman and your spouse isn't really on board with it, I'm sure that's really hard. But pray they see the light. So anyway, do it. One of the hugest parts of what we're doing here at Mount Freedom is worship and discipleship. Like, we call ourselves worship missionaries and like disciplers of the truth. So part of the vision here, we have to get, the infrastructure in place. We have to have places for people to stay and stuff. But the vision is for people that are crazy, awesome worshipers of God to come and live here. They, different, I suspect, some of them will be into gardening, some of them will be into hunting, some of them will be into building, some of them will be into playing musical instruments, and which me and my wife are both professional level musicians, and we want to help people not just get physically better at their instrument, but more importantly, learn how to worship God with your instrument and with your voice. There's not a magic way. It's more of a surrender and a willingness and every heartbeat, every breath, every moment, all that you are for God. And that is the very heartbeat, the very essence of what we're doing here. We're not nature worshipers. We're not tree huggers. We're not rock, sliders. We are worshipers of the one true Most High God. But He is showing us a lot of His creation, the beauty and the fullness of Him in His creation. But, He alone is worthy of worship.